This Bossier Watch live broadcast is brought to you by the Outdoor News, fishing and outdoors for our area. Acadiana Mortgage, over 25 years in the mortgage business. Pelican Training and Consulting, reach out to Julie Ferris. Smarter Geek, making technology easier. And folks sharing information and watching out for Bossier. Now, grab your popcorn and a drink. Here we go. And live reporting from Bossier City and Benton, Louisiana.
Well, I hate to giggle a little bit. I mean, I would have thought I was on Channel 12 or Channel 3 or, Fox News with that breaking news little thing.
I just had to throw that in there. I think that's maybe the second time, maybe the third time we've used that in the entire 205 shows.
Well, we've only ever done a breaking news thing, really. I think this makes the second time, right?
I think that's correct. And I got to say, we've already up to 40 something, probably bumping 50 people watching. So that's pretty good for a Wednesday night.
Yeah, and we typically try not to do anything on a Wednesday night, but we felt like this rose to the level of breaking news because what we're going to report tonight, I've not seen it in any media. I've not heard a peep about this anywhere around Bossier or Shreveport or Northwest Louisiana. I've not heard it at all. Have you?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, it was pretty much surprised me today as well, of course, and I know it certainly did you. And the fact that we've not heard anything about this, and it's dealing with our tax dollars, and that's why we're focusing on it. If it was a non-publicly involved thing, I don't think we would really care because bankruptcies happen. It's it's part of business, an unfortunate part of business sometimes, and sometimes it's helpful.
Yeah, but it's problematic when it involves our local government. That is when it, rises to another level. And I think that is what makes it breaking news.
I would agree. So how do we want to actually announce this? Because I'm sure, we could drag this on out, but we've got 60 plus people watching now. We could keep stretching it out to buy some time, but
Well, no, I don't think we want to stretch it out totally. But if, folks, if they watched our show last night, we had some dialogue about just government in general. I prompted a short little video that I had found to kind of make everybody think about how government is stacked against all of us, the
right.
public. I mean, it works against all of us because special interests and lobbyists have more control in the outcome of legislation and what your government does than what you and I have. I mean, so it's almost like the government does not work for us; it works for the lobbyists and the special interest. And we were just talking about that last night, and not 24 hours later, we learn of something related to our government here going sideways, and
Yeah.
it's special interest and lobbyists. And
Well, look, we had a very spirited discussion about it, and even a quasi debate, and with a lot of the comments, flying across the screen as well. So if you have a chance later on, go back to last or Tuesday night show, which is show 204. Go back and listen to that one, or listen to the podcast version, because you're right. This is just like it's like divine intervention, and I hate to say that because it's a little bit unfortunate business wise. But anyway, all right. So I tell you what. What do you think? The video that you sent earlier, why don't we just play that video? There's no audio to it. It's only about 10 seconds. And
Sure.
Then we'll come back and we'll announce it. So let me switch screens. Here we go. Oh, well, and of course, I thought we were going to be able to do it. Hold on a second. Tech issues.
Upholding our amateur journalist status, I see. You got to do a little more work on that.
Yeah,
I see. Okay.
yeah. All right, so hold on just a second. Let me do this, and let me do this, and this, and this. All right, here we go. Does anybody recognize that? Anybody in the comments? And I got to ask you because you're the one that shot that video, correct, dude?
I'm the one that shot the video.
Okay. Did there seem to be a lot of activity there?
Uh, so since I am around there and by there almost daily, there was no more or no less activity than I see from week to week. But what I would say is the activity appeared to be nothing but construction workers.
Okay.
And so for those of you that there was a little bit of activity, Greg
Right.
Bell, but it was just the construction workers moving a little dirt here and there. But for those of you who may not recognize what that is the new Teal James
Eel Jones.
lump Teal Jones lumber mill in plain dealing, brought to you by the Port of Caddo Bossier.
Yes. And some other government, entities and warm government bodies to stand there and take pictures and all that. So, um,
So what's the big breaking news about it, Rex? What's the big
well,
deal?
let me see if I've just got to do this because it's a cute little tech thing. So here we go. Look, we have a little ticker thing going across. It's moving across up there. Well, if I can point the right way. Anyway, uh, Teal Jones has filed Chapter 15 bankruptcy. That is the, I guess, parent company of the sawmill or the entity that's opening that sawmill, and they have filed actually Chapter 15. Now, I'm not the most well versed on bankruptcies, but apparently they are a Canadian-based company, so they have to file Chapter 15 in the U.S., and that's basically the way I read up on it quickly, being a Facebook lawyer. That allows the bankruptcy courts in the U.S., and I think it was filed out of Delaware in this case, to basically approve whatever reorganization. So, as best I can understand it so far, we'll look at some documents here in a minute. They have filed for reorganization, not liquidation. So, we want to make that clear.
So a lot of folks are saying, well, what's the big deal about that? Well, for those of you who have been, Bossier Watch viewers for a long time, you will recall that before or right around the time when they announced this sawmill, we kind of dug into it a little bit and we discovered that, legislation was changed and made that enabled the port to expand their grip on Northwest Louisiana to where they would be able to, if they wanted to put a sewer plant as an investment next to your house and your subdivision, they could do it and nobody would be able to do anything. Not your police jury, not any city government. They can come and do whatever they want to. They, in effect, got legislation passed, that kind of slid under the radar to enable them and give them the power to go beyond the boundaries of the port anywhere they want in Caddo and Bossier Parish. And we gave a lot of credit to two legislators that picked up on it real fast. And, one being Cedric Glover,
Right.
Democrat Cedric Glover,
We
and
showed the
he
video.
rose in opposition to it, and Danny McCormick, who I think even actually acknowledged that it slipped past him on the first vote in committee, and then when he realized what exactly it was and what it was doing, he then sounded the alarm and was against it.
Right.
So, as a result of that legislation, that again, Dex Act Against the Public enabled the port to bring to you the sawmill that now you have going bankrupt.
Yeah. And so I want to make it crystal clear from my point of view that the reason that we're making this news and putting it out there is not really any slam against Teal Jones Company or plain dealing or, because I hope they're able to go through the reorganization and continue to provide the much needed jobs and spin-off jobs and all that. But one of or really it's two things. One, we've heard nothing of this in the mainstream media, and it didn't just happen today. This was actually filed several days ago. We've heard nothing from our local politicians. I mean, they're all about going up there when they have the barbecue and the dog and pony show and put on their cowboy hard hats. They're all about announcing stuff then, but not when a potential hiccup happens. And this is a big hiccup. As best we can read, they've got about $300 or 300 million in creditor debt. Now they do have somewhere north of 500 million in assets, but they're not liquid assets. So they're just trying to do a reorganization and try to get the creditors under control so that they can proceed on. But it
The,
goes back to show 147 is the one that we talked about all this and the stuff that you were referring to, Duke.
yeah, so the problem to all of us, and the problem that you're like, okay, well, what does it matter to me about how many assets they have and all that? Well, the bottom line is because you're into this thing. This is $110 million project, and your port with your tax dollars is the ones that prop this thing up. They're the
Right.
ones that did it. And there's a lot of other things to this. Let me give you an example. Everybody was all on board, Rex, just like what you were saying. When the ribbon cutting was going down, there was no politician that didn't find a way to get their butt up there to get their picture taken. They were all standing right there wanting to get a picture. But from the taxpayer standpoint, who the politicians are supposed to be looking out for, I'm just wondering, how is it that our tax dollars were approved to be being doled out to a company who is on the verge of filing bankruptcy?
Yeah.
Did anybody vet this company? Did anybody check any numbers? Did anybody check anything? I mean,
Well, I mean, it's
who
almost
are
like
they?
it's
Who
like
are
they
they
didn't
working
read their
for?
little packets they were handed out. I mean, I'm sure Teal Jones did a fine job of developing these little handout packets for everybody. Did they not even open and read them? Did they even turn the pages at all? I don't
I
think this
mean,
happened overnight. Typically, a bankruptcy, unless it's something catastrophic, typically a bankruptcy doesn't happen overnight. It percolates for a while. And I mean, I'm certainly no expert in it. I'm no CPA like
I,
many of our city councilmen and all the dignitaries that have been involved in this. But I mean, what
what
the heck?
there we've even got a media release with Mike Johnson. We've got a screenshot of one of his. I mean, and some quotes. But here's one of the most egregious ones, and I shouldn't say egregious, but because this one is sad. It's for the citizens and the people of Plain Dealing, especially if this thing goes sideways. I mean, the town of Plain Dealing. I'm told they use that. They got a COVID grant, got a bunch of COVID
Right.
money. I think it was to the tune of $750,000 or more dollars that
Mm-hmm.
they were going to use in their town. Well, they took all of that money, they put all their money into building a water line from the town of Plain Dealing up there to supply that thing. And in the meantime, they had to raise the water bills, I'm told, on all of the citizens of Plain Dealing, and still raised to this day to pay for
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, we did talk about that. What was it? I can't remember. It was maybe a week or a couple of weeks ago. So, yeah, I mean that's the thing is it seems like just from an outsider's point of view, but we're all taxpayers, but it just seems like that our government entities that you know everybody is so lax to criticize, it seems sometimes on the local level. It seems like maybe they weren't exactly looking out for us because they should have vetted this.
Well, I do recall there was a source that told me that there were people in the Benton courthouse, affiliated with our police jury, that had a lot of snide comments about our reporting on the port and when all of this was going down, and them enabling them to have untethered to be unaccountable to
Right.
move with these projects or whatever, that we were being criticized about, raising a red flag about it. Well, here we are. And I'm just wondering which one of those elected officials are going to step up and say, oh, yeah, we looked at the financials and, we could have said no and you could have stopped it. go ahead and say you could have stopped it, that you looked at it and verified it was all good. I mean,
Right.
I'm just wondering, or who are they looking out for? Or did they even look at all?
I know. Let's pick out a few of these people in these pictures here. Some of these with the, they had those special cowboy hats. I wonder if they paid the cowboy hard hat vendor. I wonder if they
I,
got
I'm
paid.
I'm guessing the cowboy hats were that had to have been extra.
And look,
So,
I've had some experience with a corporate bankruptcy in the past with a company that I worked for at the time. And typically, the way this works in a Chapter 11 reorganization. Now, I don't know how it works exactly in Canada, but typically, the unsecured creditors are going to be lucky if they get pennies on the dollar. It depends on, again, under U.S. law, it depends on what the trustee of the bankruptcy court determines and allows, but they'll be lucky if they get pennies on the dollar. Maybe they'll be able to make them whole. I don't know. I
well,
mean, I'm not a financial guru and don't know enough about Teal Jones's books.
well,
You
it's
know,
interesting that you say that, because I think you should go to cut 50 and let's pull up what was, at the bond commission, what was put forward at the bond. Because like you
yes,
and I were debating and saying, we were saying that, you know, the bond commission is supposed to like dot the i's and cross the t's, that everything's on the up and up and there isn't any problems. And but the thing on this that jumped out at me, if you scroll up to the next page,
yep,
scroll up, is it right there talking? No, it will be the next page.
okay.
And this is what jumped out at me. We're sitting here in May of 2024, and read that first sentence.
Construction is expected to begin in January of 2022 and conclude in July of 2023. Well, that's odd. Didn't you just take that picture, that video today?
That video I took today was nothing but construction workers hauling dirt, digging stuff, and moving. They're still doing tons of stuff right now, and that isn't even what is so. Here's the egregious part, Rex. So, what I'm being told, I have a source that's telling me that contractors, not just one contractor, but multiple contractors up there on this job since they
Mm-hmm.
started, that several of them have been directed to do the job that they just did, to do it over again, to
What?
do it twice.
No, wait,
You,
wait a minute. Let me
you
wrap
heard
my
me
head around
right.
this. So they messed the job up. They didn't do it correctly. They didn't move the dirt in the right spot or whatever, and they're having
No,
to go back and
no.
redo it.
Apparently, they were told to do the job again. And
Wow,
they believe the
that's
purpose and
padding.
the reason was to draw the draw the job out to where the payment wouldn't have to be made sooner but could be made later,
Right. Yeah, that's
because
a red flag.
that should have been a red flag. And I don't know if
Hmm.
that's accurate or not, but that's what sources are saying.
Right.
So here's my thing: we're sitting here now in 2024, and that report says it was supposed to be done in July of 2023. We're fixing to push July of 2024. That makes sense that this job was dragging out for some reason, and maybe
Well,
maybe that charge is accurate.
hey, what was that? Oh, our good friend Doug Rimmer. Remember when he made that quote about robbing from Peter to pay Paul and Paul's broke? How appropriate that is.
Right. And I got somebody already reminding me and texting me about B1 Bank. I guess they see it right there on the bond
Oh,
commission. And
yes.
and again, I
Yes.
don't remember what show that was. Maybe it was show
One
147.
147.
Yeah. We kind of went down that rabbit hole there. And, if I recall correctly, I can't remember exactly, but there was a connection to King David on the Bossier City Council, who, all the other politicians in Bossier just follow whatever he wants. He has a connection. Well, they're the
Well,
ones that held,
he's
held
a
the money here.
he's a CPA and an accountant, and he's a 20 million-year-old city councilman. I mean, surely he's got the experience. I remember that it was what. Let me look up the timestamp on that. Hold on just a second, just for everybody else's reference. If you go back to show 147, you know, later this evening or tomorrow, whenever you have a chance, and look around the 122 mark, the 1 hour, 22-minute mark. That's where Duke and I start the discussion about B1 Bank. And Duke has to follow this little bouncing pinball all around some documents to try to get to the bottom of it. And that's what he's referring to. So we cover that extensively in that show.
Yeah, I was doing some digging on all that stuff back then, and bottom line is your elected officials. I mean, obviously, if they're wanting to spend $100 million or however much, 50 million of your money, you would think they would at least check out the business and the status of the business that they're going to give our taxpayer dollars to. But
I don't know. I mean, we're looking at 55 million in revenue bonds, 55 million equity from the company and private investors. 53.5 million has been committed, but only 50 million is needed in order for the transaction to close. The company intends to raise an additional 1.5 million in the coming weeks. In a letter dated October 29, 2021, B1 Bank states their commitment to provide the proposed financing subject to B1 Bank selling 40 million of the bonds. And I also want to put this up there on the screen while we're at it. This is a quote right here from Rocky Rocket, Executive Director and President of the Greater Bossier Economic Development Foundation. He says, and I quote, having these critical strategic incentives and the active participation of our local and state partners enable GBEDF to help get the project approved and funded expeditiously for Teal Jones Group. It's exciting to see our collaborative process working for the good of the region and bringing new economic prosperity to this community. Hopefully, the bankruptcy reorg will work.
I think you're going to go to Cut 100 King and pull that up.
Cut
One of
one,
our viewers
cut
sent me
100
something.
King.
Yeah, one of our viewers sent something to back up what we were just saying because I remember running it down before, but I guess they checked it real quick. I
Is
mean, this
that the
is the way our
Maserati? Is that the
yeah yeah
Maserati?
yeah
Oh,
yeah.
okay, yeah, okay. Just a
It would
second.
appear this is the way they run the port down there. They just drive it like a race car.
And there we go. David A. Montgomery Jr., remember Business First Bank Shares Inc. And of course, that's an ad for shopping for Maseratis, which we don't know if he finances Maseratis, but I guess if you want a Maserati and the ad pops up in your browser, hey, go see Business First Bank Shares.
I'll bet he will insure it.
And he will insure it.
Well,
And look,
somebody.
I hate to laugh about this because I know there were a lot of people, and they still should be excited about the jobs and the opportunity and all that for the area. I'm not trying to make light of that, and I don't think you are either, dude.
No.
But the facts are the facts, and the facts are apparently all these smart people in our government didn't vet this well enough. They should have seen this coming. We're only talking a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, and this thing was already supposed to be done. It's not done, and I think probably. I mean, who's going to allow? I mean, and there was some discussion. Who's going to allow a brand new spanking wood mill that's not had the first, tree processed
Oh,
or brought
well,
through it?
Well,
I mean,
it's a good thing that you asked that because I just flipped the page back. So let me read just a little bit of this highlighted area. Bear with me for a minute. The entity is the Caddo Bossier Parish's Port Commission, the Project Rural Renaissance LLC. That sounds like a good moniker for it. The analyst was James Pounders. Anyway, down here where I have it highlighted in yellow, it says during the lease, the port will lease the property to the company to effectuate the development of the site. At the conclusion of the lease, the property will revert to the company. The port is acting as a conduit issuer in the transaction, and the company will be reimbursed for the improvements. Debt service will be paid by the company from lease payments with ownership of the purchased property, reverting to the company once the bonds have been paid down. And hopefully they'll be able to pay the bonds down. Maybe so.
so wait a minute. Is Teal James counting all of this down there as part of their assets?
Oh.
which supposedly makes them, more valued in this bankruptcy.
Well, let me go ahead so nobody doubts us here. Let me go ahead. I'm going to put up this screenshot right here. All right, so this is from the U.S. Bankruptcy Court out of Delaware, and you can see right there, these are the recently filed Chapter 11s and Chapter 15s, just in case somebody's doubting that they filed. And you can see all the various Teal Jones entities that I guess are in the filing. Now, in full disclosure, neither one of us have read the actual bankruptcy filing. So if any of our legal friends out there have access to a Pacer account and want to pull that up for us and send it to us, we would greatly appreciate it because we will most certainly publish it.
Well, I'm just wondering how this ends up. I suspect it's going to end up that, I read earlier that other investors, and I am told that there were some local investors in the mix.
Yes.
I would be shocked if those local investors aren't the ones that end up with the sweetheart deal for pennies on the dollar for whatever percent Teal Jones has of this thing.
Well, because if your assumption is correct, they would be secured investors in this, not unsecured or secured creditors. Let me put it that way, not unsecured. So they would be much higher on the tier in the bankruptcy proceedings. Again, knowing just a little bit about U.S. bankruptcy. So,
So, where does it stand now?
all right. So this is according to this article. Let's see. I forget what deal this is, but anyway, you can Google it. Anyway, it says the company has sold some core assets and reached an interim financing deal with lenders to get operations flowing again, according to court documents published yesterday. All right. And shows their sawmill. That doesn't look like the plain dealing sawmill, though. All right.
No.
No. Says Surrey headquartered forestry company Teal Jones Group has reached an interim financing deal that will allow it to restart operations and continue reorganizing its business under court protection from its creditors, according to documents filed with the British Columbia Supreme Court on April 25th. Teal Jones filed for protection from its creditors due to a cash crunch that left it without enough revenue to keep up with its bills. On May the 3rd, the BC Supreme Court granted an extension of that protection until August the 1st, while the company continues its reorg and seek a potential sale. That's interesting.
Maybe B1 Bank is wanting to go into the timber industry.
Maybe so. It says Teal Jones didn't respond to a post-media inquiry by deadline, but the extension of its initial order was expected to support bringing employees, including 400 at its operations in Surrey, back to work. That will restart its revenue flow through the extension period. In its initial filing, the company said it needed to raise $60 million in financing, including $3 million within 10 days of filing to get its operations back on track. Why don't they just call B1 Bank? I mean,
That's
it's
what I'm
like an Oprah
saying.
Winfrey show again. Hey, you get a
I'm,
loan and you get a loan and look under your seat in the back, you got a loan.
that's what I'm saying. But I mean, here's the thing. I mean, again, why was our elected officials? Why are we so quick? We're so quick to economic development and to spend other people's money. Our money, the taxpayers' money, and I can see wanting to promote things, but how many of these broken records are we going to play? I mean,
Yeah,
we've made these big investments in things here in Bossier Parish, and how have they all panned out? I mean, how really have they panned out? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, we'll see. This remains to be seen, but I want to point out here in this one paragraph that I've got highlighted. Um, PwC's initial valuations show the company's assets hold 400 million in equity after all of its debts are considered. So, there is a chance that they'll come out of the reorg. I just hate it for the unsecured creditors.
Yeah, I hope they do, and I hope that mill goes forward. And in another discussion, somebody we were saying, you said, look, if it was such a profitable venture here, where they put this mill, I mean, a private company would have done it. Why does it have to have, you know, taxpayer dollars to push it out there to do it? I mean, well, this is why, because, companies don't have the money to do it. And maybe it's not as profitable. I mean, how is it that the timber companies are going bankrupt and can't pay their bills? It doesn't make sense to me.
That makes sense to me either. But um, from a Bossier Watch standpoint, why haven't we heard any of this again from our local politicians and from the news media?
Well, you know why we haven't heard it from our local politicians, because
Well,
they
yeah.
would be like, "Oh yeah, there you gotcha." But where's the mainstream media? Why has the mainstream media not reported on this?
Yeah,
Why?
I would agree. Let's see. We'll just run through a couple of screenshots here. So we appreciate everybody watching, especially joining us on a Wednesday evening, which typically is a church evening. We understand that. Let's see. We had already shown that one. Oh, there's Mikey walking on water tonight. So there we go. This is of course, all the politicians have to get in on this. So this is October 21st of 2022, and our current Speaker of the House and 4th Congressional District, U.S. Rep. Mike Johnson, highlighted local and national issues Thursday during a stopover at Plain Dealings Community Center, pointing to the area's potential economic growth or gain with the construction of a new lumber mill. Again, we're not blaming this on Mike, but come on. Like, all of y'all get up there to take the pictures, but none of you took the time to actually look at the paperwork and all these CPAs and accountants that we supposedly have and look at this and go, might be a little red flag there.
And here's the thing, and this is the port's doings. This is the port and some of our legislators, and and a lot of people from Bossier City is what I'm going to say, that ran this thing down everybody's throats. But the city of Bossier, the city of Bossier spent a buttload of money, on planning.
Yeah.
They over the years they spent a ton of money on master plans and all of that, and you know, now here recently, you know, a, a few elected officials in Bossier have allowed the port to come in and just completely destroy all of the master plans that have been being, built for a long time. They just ignored it all and threw it all out the window. And for this, that's what you did it for this kind of crap.
Yeah. It goes to one of those deals, follow the money, because while Teal Jones Company may be having some financial woes, I'm sure that somebody was making a pretty good dollar off of this whole deal. And probably
Maybe
somebody pretty local.
maybe all the legislators that enabled the port to be able to have the ability to go and put a solar farm right next to you if they wanted to, without you being able to have a say. Or maybe the legislators that had enabled all of this, maybe they can assure the public that you know they're looking at the books of all the people that they're throwing all this money out to bring for this economic development. um,
Okay.
I would
Um,
feel more comfortable, but I don't know what to say.
all right. Well, what else do we have for this evening, Mr. Lowry, on our
I think
special edition, special Wednesday night edition?
I think that was it. I hope it was as good for you as it was for me.
It was. And again, would like to thank everybody for tuning in. And y'all make sure and tag your friends and share this out, and share this out to your local politicians who went to take the dog and pony show pictures and eat the barbecue or fish fry or whatever it was they had, and wore the cowboy hard hats. Make sure and share this out to them and say, hey, what's up with
Did,
this? How come y'all didn't know about this?
yeah, how did you not know that this company was in bad shape? How did you not put a stop to this? Or I mean, how did this happen? Did you know? See what they say.
Yeah. All right. Also, like to remind everybody, we're fixing to do some massive improvements in our capability to search through shows. We've got some really cool stuff, actually enabled and helped by Apple, of all things. I'll just say that. But anyway, I'm going to be putting those into play on the tech side here in a couple of days. We're going to revamp the website and improve that some. If you have some information you want to share to us but don't want anybody to know about it, go to protonmail.com. No identifying information. Make you a free protonmail.com account. Send us an email to either bossierwatch at protonmail or bossierwatch at gmail.com. Some of you, especially if you're business customers of mine or friends of mine and Duke's, may be getting an email soon because, again, like we said last night, we're going to try to start stepping up the game here between Bossier Watch, Louisiana Watch, and the outdoor news. So we appreciate all the help from these people here and Acadiana Mortgage, you and Kara over there, and of course our stuff with the outdoor news and my tech stuff that's helping out a little bit so that we can bring you this breaking stuff that nobody else seems to care about, which would be major manufacturing or lumber mills having to file for BK and nobody knows about it. Crickets.
You can't get it nowhere else.
All right. We're out of here, folks. Thanks for
Good
watching.
night.